Good day. Welcome back to Voices That Matter, the show where we question the everyday choices that shape our world and challenge ourselves to look beneath the surface. Today we are focusing on something so ordinary, so routine that most of us barely pause to consider it. It's something we do every day, multiple times a day, often without even a second thought: eating. But what if the real weapons of mass destruction aren't bombs or missiles? What if they are our knives and forks? Now, that might sound dramatic, maybe even exaggerated, but stay with me. Because when we take a closer look at what sits on our plates and the systems behind it, a very different picture starts to emerge. One where our daily meals are connected to some of the most profound environmental, health, and ethical challenges of our time. We're talking about a food system that contributes massively to greenhouse gas emissions, not just carbon dioxide, but methane and nitrous oxide, gases far more potent and far more damaging. A system that drives deforestation at staggering rates, wiping out forests that once absorbed carbon and support entire ecosystems. A system that pollutes waterways with manure runoff, antibiotics, and fertilizers long before the food ever reaches us. And while this destruction is happening on a global scale, it's also happening quietly. Silently, though, choices made not in government buildings or corporate boardrooms, but at dinner tables. But it's not only the planet that pays the price. Our health is deeply intertwined with what we eat, often more than when we realize. Foods many of us grew up believing were essential or traditional can solely contribute to what conditions like heart disease, high cholesterol, hypertension, and certain cancers. The effects don't come with alarms or warnings, they build over years, quietly shaping our well being. So, today's episode isn't about guilt, it is about judgment, it's about awareness, and the stunning power each of us holds through the simple act of choosing what to eat. Because when we finally pause and look beneath the surface, we discover that most impactful decisions we make might not be political, economic, or technological. They might be the ones we make 3 times a day.
All right. Tamir. Depending on the topic that you indicated, we will start to begin with the environments, which is a place that we all share, right? So when it comes to the animal agriculture, it isn't just an industry, right? It is the one of the leading contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions, which is actually responsible for a large amount of methane and nitrous oxide, right? And then these gases are far more potent than the carbon dioxide, which in fact some research has been done, and the scientific reports note that the livestock agriculture produces the emissions comparable to or even higher than the entire transportation sector. And then to raise these livestock, the forests that are cleared have been rising on alarming rates, right? And then when we cut down the forest for, let's say, grazing land, we then lose trees that once absorbed carbon dioxide, and then we wipe out the habitats of countless species. And then, for example, the rivers and then the oceans, they then become polluted with manure runoffs, antibiotics, as well as fertilizers, which uses to grow these crops, right? And then the topic suddenly becomes that the idea of our forks as weapons of mass destructions doesn't seem as dramatic, right? It just seems more accurate. So because every meal carries a hidden environment price tag, then we have to consider specific things. So like in my personal opinion, when it comes to us consuming these products, we have to keep in mind how we retrieve this product and how we obtain this product, and from where we obtain it, right? Because we have to keep in mind that when we consume these products, we have to also talk about health benefits.
Yes, Jamael, but the story doesn't end with the planet, okay? It continues in our own bodies. So listen, eating lots of animal dairy eggs is linked to heart disease 1, obesity 2, high cholesterol 3, and certain cancers, okay? These food normally feels normal and familiar. Why? Part of the culture and tradition. But normal does not always mean harmless. Inside our bodies, structure of fat and cholesterol from animal products slowly builds and inside of us damages silently, but most people do not notice until a major health problem appears. Another is processed meats are connected to colon cancer. High animal protein diets strain the kidneys, that causes inflammation and many issues for millions of people, but yet we really ask the question why, how, and we continue because remember, it's a tradition. So, asking, so it is worth asking, why are we really cutting into when we cut into a steak? Are we nurturing ourselves or feeding a long-term disease? The good news is that the plant-based food consistently lower the risk of issues and improve health and overall the health issues. Science is clear on this. Sometimes the quietest harm are the most that we overlook the most.
Carrying on, I want to address the animals. The animals are the beings most directly affected. Billions of cows, pigs, chickens, and fish are raised just to be killed every single year. Many of them are never able to touch grass, never see the sunlight, and never get to behave naturally. Instead, their lives are lived in crowded barns or cages, managed not for their own personal well-being, but for efficiency and production. Imagine an animal that will never feel the grass under its feet or the warm embrace of the sun. That's the sad everyday reality for so many animals, such as the cows, pigs, and chicken and fish. Most of this suffering happens out of our sight. It's hidden behind walls, behind labels, behind factories, behind marketing. We may not see it, so it becomes easy to forget. But if every meal requires you to personally end an animal's life, would you still be willing to eat meat as casually as you do now? That question is worth sitting with. When we start calling our knives and forks weapons, it forces a change in how we think. It asks us to confront the violence that our food system relies on. Violence, although we rarely witness it, we end up participating daily. That doesn't mean guilt is the goal. That is not my goal. The point is awareness, to look, to care, and to ask whether our habits match our values. If we choose compassion, even small changes may ripple forward. Can you only imagine having to live the lives as animals do, that these cows, pigs, chickens, and fish do? What will you choose at your next meal?
This episode isn't about guilt or shame. It's about awareness and the incredible power of choice. We may not control global industries, but we control what we put on our plates. Every meal becomes a vote for sustainability, a vote for better health, a vote for compassion towards animals. Shifting towards a more plant-based diet doesn't mean giving up everything you love. It means recognizing that even small changes, when made by millions of people, can reshape a world. A meatless day each week, choosing plant-based milk, trying a new recipe, every step counts. What if the most peaceful act we can do isn't grand or dramatic, but simple, consistent, and done 3 times a day? And remember, Awareness isn't about perfection, it's about progress. When we slow down and actually think about where our food comes from, we start to reconnect with the world in a deeper way. We begin to see that our daily habits aren't small at all, they're threads in a much bigger story. And the story we choose to write, bite by bite, is one that future generations will inherit. So the question becomes, what kind of world do we want to pass on? One shaped by unconscious habits, or one shaped by intentional, compassionate choices?
As we come to the end of today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. We often imagine that changing the world requires enormous power, political influence, vast resources, groundbreaking inventions. But sometimes the most transformative power lives in the smallest, most ordinary choices. The ones we make quietly, consistently, without fanfare, like what we put on our plates. Because when we zoom out, the picture becomes clear. Our food system is not just about personal preference. It's about the environment we rely on, the health we hope to sustain, and the billions of living beings whose lives are shaped by our habits. And while that can feel overwhelming, it can also be incredibly empowering. Why? Because it means that every single one of us has a way to make an impact. Starting today, starting with the next meal. This isn't about perfection. It isn't about becoming someone different overnight. It's about becoming more aware, more intentional, and more compassionate with each step. Maybe that looks like trying one plant-based meal. Maybe it's choosing a different kind of milk. Exploring new recipes, or simply pausing to ask yourself, is this choice aligned with this kind of world I want to help create? When we shift our perspective, we begin to understand that our knives and forks aren't just tools for eating, they're tools for change. They're instruments that can create destruction or help build a more sustainable, humane, and healthy future. So as you go about your day, I invite you to see your meals not as routines, but as opportunities. Opportunities to vote for the planet, to vote for your own well-being, to vote for compassion. Because the truth is simple. The world we leave behind is shaped by the choices we make. Not once in a lifetime, but again, there is 3 times a day. Thank you for listening, and thank you for caring enough to question the ordinary.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We truly appreciate your time and support.